Thank you very much, Your Worship. Just before I get in to the report, I just wanted to take a minute, if I could, to thank our City Days Committee, especially our Director, Mr. Tremarny, and our Community Events Coordinator, Krista Tucker, for a fabulous City Days event. I want to thank them for their hard work. I also want to point out the incredible work that was done by the chair, Kendra Lester, and her committee. Kendra's committee, of course, have been working for a long time to try to make sure that the event ran off as smoothly as possible. She did a lot of work, including assuming the role of MC for a number of the functions throughout the weekend as well. Doing an outdoor event in Newfoundland and Labrador is tough, even in July. And I feel badly for Krista and her staff on many occasions. We had, for example, the pig roast on Friday night, and just almost like at the exact minute that we're about to begin that, of course, we had a downpour of rain, and staff were scrambling to try to erect tents for a number of different venues. So it's tough, and they did a great job, working through the rain and working through the wind on Sunday. It was a pleasant day, but it was chilly and it was a little windy, but I think most of the people really enjoyed it. So again, I want to thank all of the staff at the Reed Center as well, and of course our own Public Works employees worked pretty aggressively throughout that weekend as well to try to get the sites prepared and try to get the venues cleaned up afterwards. So great job on the part of everyone. I think everybody enjoyed themselves for sure. There's lots to eat, yeah, for sure.
I just concur with Councillor Stoyles. I would go beyond that day. I think we just need to have a look at it, because whenever it rains, there needs to be some proper drainage or something there. It's quite a build-up of standing water, and we've had the event there. Last year was good. I think it was the year before last, maybe. The same thing happened, and it was brutal then as well. So some proper drainage should be put there.
Welcome back, Mr. Lush. The next couple of items are related to some upcoming events sponsored by the Association for the Arts of Mount Pearl. There is a series of Arts in the Park taking place beginning on Monday, the 1st of August, and every Monday for the 3 consecutive following weeks. It starts at 7 o'clock. It is free. The entertainment lineup, unfortunately, don't have for you this evening. But we'd really encourage, especially for an evening like this evening, to come out and take the children down, take some blankets, take a picnic, take some cold drinks, and enjoy some free entertainment and a beautiful night outdoors. We, again, obviously subject to the weather in terms of the amount of fun. I'm not sure if these will be going ahead, rain or shine or not, but I guess just check the website and just be sure whether or not these are going ahead if the weather is a little rainy. And the only other thing, on the 11th of August, which is a Thursday night, beginning at approximately 8:30 at dusk, we have a movie in the park again. In case of inclement weather, the movie will take place the next night or the following nights. And again, the admission for these are basically free, but we are trying to support the food bank, so a non-perishable food item would be most appreciated. So again, come out and enjoy the all too brief summers that we have, and share in a little bit of entertainment. This movie and the various entertainment as part of the Arts in the Park series are all free events. Thanks very much.
So the movie in the park here, Councillor Walsh, is that also in Centennial Park out here, or?
Yes, that's the plan. Yeah.
All right,
Thank
thank you.
you.
All right, the next committee report is corporate services, and Councillor Lane is here to present, if you would, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. First item relates to Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador Annual Convention. It's taking place November 2nd to the 5th in Corner Brook. We have a request here from the Mayor, as well as Councillors Walsh, Tessier and Aker to attend, and that would be as per our professional development.
Deputy Mayor as well, I think.
Oh yes, okay, sorry about that. Yeah, okay. So Mayor Sims, Deputy Mayor Locke, Councillors Walsh, Tessier and Aker would be attending, and that would be under our professional development policy, as budgeted for in our annual budget, and I so move.
For some.
Moved by Councillor Lane, seconded by Councillor Soils. Comments or questions? Okay, call the question. All those in favour? Aye. Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
And the last item, Your Worship, is the invoice for approval, totaling five.
Here, Councillor Lane.
They're updated, okay, on the pink sheet, totaling $594,339.10, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Lane, seconded by Councillor Soils.
Question.
Question for Councillor Aiken.
Yeah, I'm just curious. There's an item there about $18,000 for the city of Corner Brook for the Corner Brook Expo 2010. I was curious what that was for.
Well, only because the CAO filled me in on this earlier. This is part of the outstanding payment that needs to be paid to the city of Corner Brook from last year's East, West, North Expo. Unfortunately, it takes longer than you'd ever anticipate to do the final tally and the accounting for all the different payments, because we're actually sharing payments among 3 different municipalities with that event last year. So this, I think, it provides the outstanding reconciliation of those accounts for $18,000 to be paid to Corner Brook, and I think that's the end of it. Is it not, Miss Peach? Is that the end of it?
This is also COA money that we already received, that we just received. I think that's the main aspect of it, that it is COA money.
Yes, Pete, did you want to add to that?
Hey, why don't you give us the right answer?
No, you're all right, of course. No, mostly it's half of the COA grant that we share with Corner Brook, plus some minor payments on either side. So the COA grant was $35,000. So it's basically that plus miscellaneous to balance the account from last year. Councillor Lane, I think you were wondering when it's last year's accounts. So everything is this year, nothing. Just, yeah. We don't have any. We don't have any outstanding costs for this year.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Beach. Good answer. Is that it for? That's it for corporate services. Thank you, Councillor Lane. We move on to our next committee, and that's. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. That's.
I made a motion.
You moved. Seconded. Call the question. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary-minded. Motion is carried. Thank you, guys. And now we move on to engineering services. Councillor Aker, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. There's one item here. It's related to the Glacier Arena. It's basically change order number 11 under contract package number 2, which is the interior fit-up. The change order is in the amount of $36,636.06, and that excludes HST. And I move that we approve this change order, which is small in nature and basically has to do with the final tidying up of the building as we get closer and closer to putting it into full use. There's been some adjustments made. For example, there was some fire-rated gyprock had to be installed in one of the stairwells. There was some benches that had to be added to the hockey hockey benches and the like, and for the coaches for the figure skating club and the like. So this is just
Okay.
the final interior details, and I'm not sure, will this be the last change order that's coming,
We're
Director
going to be
Lush?
getting close.
Is all the
Mis-
community
Mr. Lush?
No, well, we've got to go back and do some rework on the existing block work. It's beyond the scope of the contract, but we're going to put it in
Oh, yeah, okay.
to the original contract. There's some problems with the fascia on the existing building and extensive part of rain gutter, so we'll put it under, I'm going to include it in this project.
In this project, as opposed to, say, the regular budget.
Okay, so that's on the existing glacier out front there. We were saying before the rain gutter had broken and all the water sort of splashed up and froze and wedged out the blockwork there on the front.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Lane mentioned the contingency, and I think we had allowed for, in the last budget revision, we had allowed for quite a few of the change orders we knew were in the mill. I'm not sure, was number 11 part of that?
Our contingency, have we exhausted the contingency yet, or
I think we're slightly over. Is that a fair statement?
Ms. Peach, you want to speak to that?
I think we're still within the contingency, and actually our new Director of Corporate Services handed over that file just about a week ago, and going to give him a little bit of time to update that and bring an update back to council,
Okay,
perhaps next meeting.
sounds good. We're nearing the end. All right. So that's it for that report there, okay?
And I so move.
All right, moved by Councillor Aker and seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion is carried. And that's it for engineering services. And while you're up, Councillor Aker, why don't you continue with planning and
Carry on with planning. We'll
and
do,
land
sir.
use development,
Thank you so
please.
much. Of course, I always look across the room and I see Miss Peach over there, and I keep thinking she's also the Director of Corporate Services, so we'll be looking to you more and more, Mr. Silver, in the days ahead. First item from the Planning Committee, Waterford River Cleanup Blitz, which is going to take place in partnership with the Conservation Corps of Newfoundland and Labrador, and this is all aimed at cleaning up the Waterford River and the stretch that goes from Mount Pearl, primarily from in the Steady Waters area, just above the bridge there, as you go across to Mary Queen of the World School. The business blitz, where we're trying to get as many businesses here in Mount Pearl, trying to get them out on Friday, August the 5th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And that will take place, we'll designate the portions of the Waterford River that in Donovan's Business Park that will have to be cleaned up. And the Community Blitz, which is more aimed at the residents of the city, is Saturday, August 13th, 9 a.m. till noon. And basically, it'll be designated portions of the Waterford River east of Commonwealth Avenue, west of Orchard Avenue. And I guess the remainder of that river is being primarily focused on by the Conservation Corps in their regular summer project that they have with us, right? City will provide bags, gloves at start locations. T-shirts will also be provided, and we'll have a barbecue on Saturday, August 13th, here in Centennial Park next to City Hall. That'll be at 12 noon. It'll be thank all the volunteers with the teams that registered.
Good. Yeah, Councillor Wallace has a question?
Just a quick.
Sorry,
Oh no, I was just going to suggest, Councillor Walsh, that the budget for this is we've established is $4,000, and that will also require committee approval here today. And I so move.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Stoyles, and Councillor Walsh had a question?
Yeah, I just a couple of probably more observation of the question. First of all, I don't think I've seen anything come through the Chamber of Commerce on this. Obviously, this event is next Friday. If we're trying to get the business community involved, an obvious partner would be the Chamber of Commerce. So I'd love to see something come through them. I'm a member of the Chamber, plus Council also gets notification for Chamber events. Haven't seen anything. This is a fabulous project, and I think to try to engage the support of the business community is a great idea. But I think it needs to begin with our direct contact with the business community. So I'd recommend that if we haven't done it, that we pursue the Chamber, get them involved, try to really rally some support.
Sure.
Because there's only, like I said, it's only next Friday, and try to get them involved. The second thing, I noticed that we're having a little barbecue. There was only a few hamburgers and hot dogs on the Saturday event, the 13th. If we were going to involve the business community and we're going to get them engaged, why not do the same sort of thing if we can do it? I mean, we're only talking about a few hot dogs and hamburgers. If we can get them down there, get them involved in the cleanup, why not do something for lunchtime on the Friday if we could do it? I know we're on. Sorry?
Then and there.
Yeah, well, either then and there or back here at the square or something,
Sure.
whatever, similar to what we're doing for the
It's a
public.
good idea.
I think it'd be a real nice touch, and it would not be very expensive. But, you know, if you're going to ask the business people to come out and support the project, maybe a little opportunity to say thank you might be in order.
Sure.
Okay.
I do know that in committee that we did bring up the whole issue of contacting the Chamber of Commerce, and they have been contacted about the Blitz. So I think it's a great idea about a little barbecue. Mr. Yevchek.
Your Worship, and Councillor Walsh, we talked about the barbecue for the business community, and it was felt, given that it was a business day, that the 2 hours probably would be, sufficient for their employees. But in the invite to them to participate in the business blitz, there's also an invitation to join us for the barbecue on the Saturday.
Okay.
And so we have extended. Now we can look at doing it for that day if council feels that would be
Well, I
appropriate.
just thought, even if they do it from 9 to 11, Mr. Yevchek, and they, you invited them back for 12 or 12:30, some of them may be able to come back, but as long as you thought of it, and I'm not surprised that you did think of it, it's great that you extend the invitation to them. Either way, but I just thought maybe the day would be better, and reading what I read here, there was no reference to the fact they're invited on the 13th. But
Sure.
good on you for inviting them. I just still think that maybe it might work if we did it at 12 o'clock or so.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Okay. We'll follow up. Councillor Lane has a question.
Yeah, just a quick question. On the community one, have we contacted the community organisation specifically? I mean, it's great for us to, put on our website and whatever, but I bet you if you were to actually contact, say, the Lions Club, the Kinsmen, Kinettes, KFC, and let them know, and they might come as a group,
Right.
and you get a lot more participation.
Yeah.
We should have a list of people who come out and do the 15-minute clean-up. And I also had mentioned
mic on?
we have a list of a couple of companies like Black & McDowell that do. I was going to say, there's a couple of companies like Black & McDowell that does regular cleanups, and also we have a list of people that do the 20-minute makeover. We have a list of them. Maybe one of the students could make a call to a number of them and try and get some of those people out as
Sure.
well.
Yep. Okay. Mr. Yevchek.
Your Worship, and to two councillors, actually what we've done, and we didn't put it all in the report, is we've joined forces with community services in terms of contact lists and so on. Invitations have gone out to all the community groups. And
Good stuff.
We have also engaged, say, community services in terms of other groups that could get involved for the event. So I think hopefully now we'll get a good group turnout for that. And of course, you haven't received it yet, but obviously the other group will be inviting as council members themselves.
Absolutely.
For the committee cleanup. So.
Yeah. You seem like you have all the bases covered. Thank you, Mr. Yevchek.
I plan to be there.
All right. No other comments or questions? All right. Let's call the question then. All those in favor?
Don't have any choice now. We got
Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. The next item.
They're all good suggestions, and I think the $4,000 budget can amply handle a few extra dogs and,
Sure.
and burgers, right? Now, the next item here is the Waterford River floodplain flood-proofing study, and the council has been meeting with certain residents of Forest Avenue starting in December 2010, and as recently as a week ago, with regards to looking at options. These houses are in and near a floodplain zone, and they've experienced some flooding from time to time, and we get typically in the fall when we get bad storms. So we had a meeting with the residents last week, basically, to provide them with the option of having a consultant go in and looking at the houses from a flood-proofing point of view. Some ways or measures to ensure either the water doesn't get into their homes, or the homes are, for example, somehow it's mitigated so the water can't get at them and they can enjoy a good quality of life down there. The purpose of the study is to examine and recommend flood-proofing measures that will eliminate or reduce the flooding of the existing dwellings that are located within the 1 in 100-year flood zone of the Waterford River. 13 dwellings have been identified as being located with the floodway and floodway fringe. And I know at a meeting last week, Deputy Mayor, which you chaired, we had as many as 9 of the residents there, maybe 10, I think it was. And I think everybody agreed that the flood-proofing study would be a good idea. I believe there was one homeowner who suggested that they were going to get back to us. And the only caution I would say to that homeowner is if you don't agree to the flood-proofing study, naturally we cannot, through our consultants, we cannot go in your property and do the assessment
Right.
that is required, right? You know, and he now has joined the crowd. Good, that's pretty good news. Okay, here's what we're asking the consultant to do: review the 1989 hydrological report on the Waterford River and any more recent reports to determine if these floodproofing measures recommended in 1989 are relevant today. Okay, that basically is our starting point here. Review the Waterford River flooding data and determine appropriate elevation for floodproofing measures. Determine the type of floodproofing measures that would benefit each of the dwellings identified within the floodplain, either collectively or individually. Examine downstream impacts of these floodproofing measures and, if required, the mitigating measures to reduce these impacts. To identify the approval process, because we, at the end of the day, this is going to be a costly venture. We will need to partner with the other two levels of government, no doubt.
If it's viable.
If it's viable, exactly, yeah. Turning to the next page, and they're going to prepare a report and make recommendation on the options, either collectively or individually, for these properties that are down there. And of course, the consultant will work in cooperation with the Federal Department of Fisheries, Oceans, the Provincial Department of Environment and Conservation, to ensure that all federal provincial policies, regulations, and requirements are noted. This is a very complicated piece. You know, for example, it's we could propose, for example, that we're going to dredge the river, but obviously, where that's fish habitat, we just can't automatically go in and do that. So, basically, you know, we would have to work with, for example, Department of Fisheries and Oceans at the very least to in tackling the problem that way. I do believe we're also going to ask the consultant. This came out of the meeting with the residents. To look at the bridge structure that's down there and see if any way that structure compounds the flooding that's occurring in the area. And also we're going to look at the prospect of doing some dredging in the river. Although as recently as today we had conversation with the Department of Environment that dredging a river is not really a permanent solution. There's a reason that river is full of sand and silt and whatnot, and you can do some dredging. It'll probably turn out to be costly, but at the end of the day, it's unlikely in the long run that's going to fix the problem.
Within 5 years, it'll resilt.
So after all that, the work will be undertaken by Bay New Plant. I think they're going to start pretty well immediately. The cost is $25,000 for including HST, and I so move.
Okay, moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Any comments or questions on this? As Councillor Aker said, this has been a 2-year process that we've been going through, trying to address the flooding concerns that's been expressed by the folks in the Forest Avenue area, also the ones at the bottom of Winston and some down on Duns Lane. And basically, as we said at that meeting, as Councillor Aker referenced, this will give us some data right now as a starting point in terms of the cost of some of these measures and whether or not they're viable. Because right now, there are numbers in the sky that, as we said to the residents, we really don't know what these options would cost. And we made it clear at the meeting, and again, just to reiterate that Council is prepared to pay for the study, but this is in no way a commitment by Council to pay for any of these measures that may come from this consultant's report, because basically we stated at the meeting that we don't know what the costs are, so we're not committing to anything. We just want to see what the viable options are. If there's no other comments, we'll call the question. All those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
Next item, Your Worship, is the development permit list. There you can see permit number 35 is listed, and I so move.
Okay, moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
Next item is the building permit list for the period ended July. Hang on there, folks. July. The font is really small tonight.
9th to the 23rd.
July 23rd. Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you. The total for this period is $1,260,850. Have I got that right, or is it too?
285. 1,285,850.
Is it? Thank you, Councillor Lane. And I so move.
Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor
I'm making
Stoyles.
that bigger now.
Can you expand it there?
Wow.
Jeez, stubbornness is a real violence.
He didn't want to give in,
You
did
gotta
he?
give in to the fact that you're getting old and going blind.
The next motion I'll make is for the.
I didn't call the question.
I'm sorry.
Call the question. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
Now the commercial permits, they total $25,000 for this period. And I so move.
Okay, moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Call the question. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
That's it for the
Yes,
main part of the
you have
agenda.
one
but
outside the
there is,
agenda
yes, an RFP related to property owned by the city at 989 Topsail Road. Basically, the city owned that property and put it up for proposals for development of the property. And basically, two proposals were received, and one proposal was for a 3-story, 24-unit residential development. And a portion of the building, along with associated parking and landscaping, would require the city property. I think in that proposal, it's using an adjoining property basically to make this development happen.
So this property, just for our viewers at home, is the former bakery
Yes,
that
that's right.
Marie's Mini Mart used to use, right on the corner,
Right.
Joyce's Corner.
The house is still on the corner, as a
Right.
matter of fact, and as part of this development, the house will come down.
Perfect.
Now, there was a second proposal from Belvedere Holding Corporation, and
Mhm.
basically that's the folks that own Vogue Optical. And they had a couple of proposals there where they wanted to use some of the lands that front on Topsail Road for some additional buildings and also for some for parking for their walk-up traffic in the optical trade and that, right? Staff has had a chance, as well as committee, to look at both proposals. There was a feeling early in the game that basically we would maybe be able to accommodate both proposals, but that does not appear to be the case. So city staff determined that we basically would have to go with one proposal or the other. I think it's a good proposal. The one we're going to go with is the one proposed by Mr. Lovelace. His bid for the property was $57,000, which was by and large a lot higher than the bid from Belvedere. We will see basically that corner, which is really I think it's the southeast corner of Topsail Road, Commonwealth, develop into a very nice building with a substantial tax base. And basically, what we're requiring Mr. Lovelace to do would be to do a traffic study. That will be one of the conditions that's included in the motion here tonight. So I move the recommendation that you see there.
Okay, moved by Councillor Aker,
Second.
seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Any comments or questions?
Just a question.
Councillor Walsh?
The traffic study, is that a traffic study of the flow of traffic just in the area or some mitigation efforts to alleviate some of the congestion that could result as a result of the 24 units that are being proposed?
Mr. Yevchek?
It's a study to determine Your Worship, it's a study to determine what should be done in terms of access onto Commonwealth Avenue in that area. As we are all aware, this property is very close proximity. This property and the property just south of it, which is what the proposal is from Mr. Lovelace, is in close proximity to the intersection of Topsail and Commonwealth Avenue, which is by far the busiest intersection we have in the city. So the study is to indicate what kind of access configuration we can allow in there, and to somehow control perhaps the left-hand turn lanes in and out of the property. That's the intention, because to have left-hand turn lane in that location could be very problematic.
So right in, right out.
The reason I asked that, I think in the proposal that Mr. Lovelace submitted, certainly in conversations with that I've had with him, he was proposing right turn only exit from the property, which would probably, in fact, definitely make it a lot safer. I don't think he'll have any problem undertaking the traffic study because, as long as it's restricted to the site. If it's beyond that, obviously, it should be our responsibility. We've actually done. I remember some years ago, SGE Acres did a significant study, and I think at the time it said that particular intersection, and if I'm not mistaken, was even busier than the Prince Philip Drive intersection at the time. It was probably the busiest single intersection in terms of traffic flow in the entire region. So, I think it's a great proposal. Generally, as Councillor Akers suggested, it's a tremendous tax base. But one of the things that I hope it will also provide is a tremendous, fill a tremendous void in the housing industry, because people are crying out for, reasonably priced houses. I don't know exactly what the price range is of these that are proposed, but I'm hoping that they'll be reasonably priced, because right now there is a high demand and a very low availability in terms of the housing in Mount Pearl. So So I hope that it'll fill an important void there as well.
All right, thank you. Councillor Stoyles, did you have a question?
I was going to mention some of the same things that Councillor Walsh Audi had mentioned about the traffic study and about the right-hand turn only, and that is included in the study that's going to be done. And I think, like Councillor Walsh said, the need for affordable homes in this city is certainly needed, and I just wanted to point that out as well. And I think hopefully, and I'm assuming there will be a public hearing in the midst of all this somewhere for the public to have some input. Is that going to happen? I'm just wondering if that's the case.
Sure does. Mr. Yevchak?
Under the new plan, and I refer to the new plan because I think by the time we receive application for this, it'll be still a number of weeks away, and by that point, I believe our new plan will probably be in place. I believe that this would be a permitted use. If it's 3 stories, residential condominium development, it would be permitted within the MD zone. I'll have to check that to be certain, but I believe it is true. If it's not, then we go through a public process. Now, again, council always has the right, if they so wish, to always have some kind of public process for any development. And so if the council desires to have something like that, then certainly it is their prerogative.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yevchak. Councillor Lane, further comment?
I got to say something. No, there was a couple of points I wanted to make. First of all, one point that has been made in terms of selecting this property, this proposal over the first one, and which is why I certainly support this, is that we're not only now talking about that one piece of property on the corner.
Right.
Under Mr. Lovelace's proposal, we're also going to be developing further property, the old Meeker property below it. So it's not just that corner, it's a combination, whereas the first proposal, if we had have gone with that, all we're going to do is just basically extend the parking lot of Vogue Optical into where the old Marie's Bakery, that old house, was to.
Right.
And in doing so, in all likelihood, we would have left that Meeker property in a situation where it may never be able to be developed. So I think in going with this, we open up 2 significant parcels of land for development. So that's certainly one of the reasons why I favour that. Obviously, some of the other reasons have been stated in terms of the need for housing, the tax base, all that stuff. The only other point I'll make, and I guess this will all be shown when the traffic study is done, I heard Councillor Walsh, I believe, speak to the fact of the proposal of a right turn out, which I definitely agree with. And I guess we'll wait to see what the study should show, but I think that a right turn in my view, is going to be something that's going to also be required, based on the fact that I've certainly had complaints, even with what's there now, in terms of somebody, for example, somebody on Topsa Road heading west, makes the left-hand turn down over Commonwealth. You only get that break in the lights for that green arrow for a few seconds. Everyone's kind of going in a bit of a hurry. You're making the turn, and all of a sudden that guy in front of you decides he's going to make a left even into Emberleys.
Right.
And all of a sudden you got a situation where you're almost rear-ending somebody. And I've had a couple of calls over the last year where that type of situation happened. And Emberleys is even further down. So I can imagine if you move that left turn even closer to the lights, where that potential where someone's coming through that intersection, all of a sudden they got to jam up because someone stopped trying to make a left-hand turn. I could see that as being a very dangerous situation. So I guess we'll wait to see what the study says, but I got a feeling that it's going to be right turn in and out.
I think you're right as well.
Configuration.
All right, thank you, Councillor Lane. I think everyone has spoken on it, so let's call the question. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. And that brings us to the end of our committee reports. So now we're on to new business. And I don't remember who started. Anyone remember? Since Councillor Lane is by himself over here, why don't we start with Councillor Lane? Yeah.
I have no comment.
No comment? Thank you. All right, Councillor Stoyles?
Actually, I do have a couple of items. One thing I wanted to ask Mr. Lush about is, back a number of months ago, there was an oil spill in Powers Pond, and I know I walked with a gentleman who called me last week that there's a lot of silch and that, and I know it's there's work being done, and they have a big hole dug up over behind United Rentals in Powaspan, and I walked the pathway one day last week, and it was really silty and muddy, and you could tell that there was still silch going through and going right into Powaspan, and it's been a long time in the works. I know the city had put out a lot of money and had been going back to the business who had the oil leak to get the money back, and I'm just wondering what the status is on it.
Can anyone speak to that? Mr. Lush, if you would.
Yeah, North Atlantic's still under doing their take-up and their move to the next phase where they've contained it on their site and let them down on the back United Rentals, and they're doing full restoration. They have an environmental consultant, falls into the domain of the province, and they're working with environment and keeping us in the loop.
Did I hear that there's some equipment in the bog there behind United Rentals? Were there a backhoe or some sort?
We're using the backhoe to do some cleanup, but it's not in the bog. It's
Adjacent to the bog. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lush.
Yeah, I was going to answer that too.
In terms of what Councillor Stoyles, I'm not speaking for her now, but I had that, now that she's raised it, it's great that they're going to do the cleanup. It's wonderful. But did not the city incur expenses of our own originally in terms of consultants and so on to determine where the problem was coming from? And if so, are they not responsible for our costs?
Mr. Lush?
That's presently with the city's legal advisor, so they're still trying to pursue it and still trying to recover it. So we've had contact with them, but we yet to recover what we've expended.
Okay.
I think the major problem, as far as I can see, is that, especially for the residents in Powaspan that's walking that every day, they don't know what's going on. Like, I had 2 Pacific calls, and one man said to me, well, you know, I said, well, I don't live in that part of Mount Pearl, but I certainly don't mind going over and having a look. And I went over, and he met me there and walked, and he said, you know, this has been on the go a long time. We don't know what's happening. You know, it's our, you know, park, and we're out walking our animals, and you know, we don't know what's on the go. I think that's the thing, is the public awareness campaign needs to be done to let the public know that, you know, and I did call him back and tell him, because I did speak when Mr. Lush was out of town. I did speak with Tina up in engineering, and she did give me the information and everything, but I wanted to get out to the public to let them know that it is still work being done, and, you know, they're saying, well, how much time will they need and all this. So they have a lot of questions, and as Councillor Lane had mentioned the cost, I mean, I heard at one point in time that the city had spent over $50,000, the city's money, to find where the leak was actually come from. So I think, you know, we need to spend more time and inform the public and let them know what's happening.
Any time frame, Mr. Lush, as to when this may clue up that you know of? Like, I mean, they're in the process now.
They usually don't stick a time frame. The remediation program is years. So this is one phase. They collect the data, see how successful they've been, and they continue on until they get it back to the standard it has to be.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Aker?
Yeah, one comment. I mean, this all arose last year. You know, we had a devil of a time trying to figure out where that oil was coming from, and I got to commend the city staff. I mean, they worked on this a good part of last summer. I mean, the good news is that the oil leak has been found. The good news also is that I'm assuming North Atlantic has taken or accepted responsibility for it. Maybe not legally or technically, but, you know, I mean, but they're cleaning up. So regardless of where that stands, but also, you know, we have I don't know if the number is $50,000, but I know our solicitor did write them last year to make them aware of the costs incurred, and I do believe it's every intention by the city to follow up and collect that money. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, one thing I've learned about environmental matters is you can never tell how long it's going to take to clean something up, and you can never determine the final cost until it's over. But, you know, to your point, Councillor Stoyles, I think there's progress being made, and I just hope the an oil leak never happens again. I think that's where you have to stem the problem.
Right.
I think that's fine, as long as the residents knows that it's not something new. Like, they thought it was another new oil leak when they saw what was happening. And I think that was the problem, that especially the people in Powaspan, really need to know what's going on, because they see the equipment. None was there for months, then all of a sudden, so they're wondering if it's a new oil leak, and you can't blame them, for wondering that. And I think that it needs to be a message sent to them. $
$50,000 is a joke for remediation of a site that
Well,
board then.
no, that was only what
that
we,
was what we spent.
that was only what we spent to determine where the leak was coming from.
Yeah, I thought you said we
Oh,
spent
no,
50,000.
no, we only spent, and it might be more than that, I heard $50,000 that we spent to determine where the leak was coming from.
All right, we'll look into it.
I have a couple of other items.
Okay.
Your worship, I would like for us to send to the Elwood family and to the Boring family. Mr. Bill Elwood passed away. He was a resident of Mount Pearl, I guess, for a long time. He was 97 years old. Reg Boring is Reg's father-in-law, and he passed away last week. Now, he was up in the home up here in Hillcrest. He was in Hillcrest for about. He was in Moores Drive initially. After his wife passed away, I guess about 11 or 12 years ago. After Mrs. Elwood died 11 years ago, a couple of years after. Well, I think both of them were in Moores Drive, and then he went up to the one up here on Hill. Agnes Pratt, I think it was. Yeah. Anyway, him and his family, he raised his family here in Mount Pearl, and had been actively involved when he was younger in a lot of things. I know his family, and Karen, his granddaughter, worked here for a number of years at City Hall, and just wanted for us to pass along our sympathy, especially someone who was 97 years old, certainly a long life.
When did he die?
He died last week. He was buried last
Sunday.
yeah, he was buried last Tuesday. Monday or
A
Tuesday.
week ago,
Yeah.
Sunday back?
Day of the nomination. Right.
Okay, that explains.
Yeah.
Okay, no.
Well, it was a blur to you.
Yeah.
No, but that
He was
explains
buried last
something.
Tuesday. And the other thing I want to mention, Your Worship, is Walter Butt. Of course, Walter had been involved with the joint councils and involved. I've known Walter, I guess, almost ever since I've got on council. Walter and his wife had a serious car accident back, I guess, over a month ago now. I was in to visit him and his wife just last week, and of course they have a lot of injuries, and they're going to be in hospital for a long time. I know the city sent off get well wishes and that to him, but I told him I would pass along. He said to say thank you for the lovely basket fruit, and wanted to say that it's going to be a long recovery, and if anybody wants to go to visit him, he certainly is. Yeah, he's up for visitors, and for anybody to go, not to stay too long, but he certainly is going to be a slow process, and I was in to visit his wife as well, because she's 2 doors down, and she had major surgery and that, and it's going to be a long process for both of them. I wouldn't say he's going to be involved in anything for the next number of months, but our sympathy certainly goes out for them, and I know
Wish him
it's
a
been
speedy recovery.
a difficult time for him and his family, and I just wanted to mention it today.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Stoyles. Councillor Walsh?
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, I just want to say that Councillor Lane is the only guy that I know who rolls the dice and wins before he goes to Vegas.
That's a good thing I didn't for after.
But the truth of the matter is he was going to Vegas, win or lose. That was the thing. No, I just wanted to pass on congratulations to Councillor Lane on winning the nomination. Obviously, the people of Mount Pearl South had 2 great candidates to choose from. And I was also really impressed by the fact that this council never once talked formally about a position on that issue. Here we were in a situation, a very difficult and sensitive situation, where you had 2 excellent candidates, 2 councillors. We never discussed it, and nobody ever came out looking for support or giving support to the candidates. And as a result of that, we come back to this council not divided at all, but very, very solid as a group. And I was really impressed, by that. And just wanted to congratulate Councillor Lane, obviously, on winning the nomination. Paul, you'll be a tremendous candidate and an asset, and I wish you very, very well in the upcoming election. And to Councillor Tessier, I know she's not here today, but I know she fought a tremendous campaign, also a great candidate and a great councillor. Either way, I think the voters of Mount Pearl South would have been well served, and just wanted to extend congratulations to you, Paul, on the win. It must have been obviously very, very gratifying for you, and I know you're going to have a busy, busy fall, but you're up to the challenge for sure.
Indeed.
A couple of other things. There's quite a bit of construction, not just in Mount Pearl, but around the entire region. And I just kind of, because I've seen bicycles, I've seen motorcycles, and I've seen motorists probably not exerting the kind of caution that's required when you're going through construction zones. I saw it just recently, today in fact, and again yesterday up around the Reed Center, for example, in one of the areas. And I know we had another area that's been done today. So it's not just Mount Pearl, it's throughout the entire region. Everywhere you go now, you're running into construction areas, and we just need to be a little bit more patient. So I'd urge motorists and pedestrians and bicyclists to be a little bit more patient with that. The only other thing I wanted to mention, Your Worship, we received an email today, all members of council got it, I think, notifying the fact that Campia Gymnastics received a $15,000 grant from the province.
It's great. Great news.
This grant is to be used for the purchase of apparatus equipment for what we hope will be a new facility opposite the A&W. But on that, we had scheduled a hearing, Mr. Yevchek. I thought it was for the 9th of August, and it's canceled. Has that been rescheduled? Well, I have notification of cancellation. I'm just wondering, it's a little early to cancel it based on the fact that there was no representation, I'm assuming. It's not canceled?
I'm not aware of that. I have to check that out.
Okay. Mr. Chimarni wants to speak to that? Yeah.
Councillor Walsh, there was an initial send out on that meeting, and there was some misinformation in the thing. So it's still the same date and time, but the information change that was attached to the email that went out to council.
Okay.
Yeah. So it is still the
So it's still on the. Oh yeah. Well, my calendar has, and I didn't notice the timing of when they were sent, but my calendar has notification of the hearing and then cancellation of the hearing. So I'll maybe I didn't read the details.
So it's still scheduled for August the 9th.
So it's still scheduled for the 9th, Tuesday the 9th.
Yep.
Is it Tuesday the 9th? Is that the 9th? Yes. Okay, excellent. So we look forward to that, and I was really delighted to hear of the announcement for the $15,000 in funds.
Indeed.
So thanks for that.
All right. Thanks, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Aker?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I had three things, and two of them have already been started, but I also wanted to congratulate Councillor Lane and as well Councillor Tessier. I think both of them would made fine candidates, and in these races, somebody has to come out on top, I guess. So, Paul, friend, from me to you, congratulations, and I hope you fare very well in the upcoming election. Thank you. City Days, I also wanted to mention too. With City Days, I think the staff did a tremendous job, as Councillor Walsh pointed out earlier on. We enjoyed ourselves, and I must say I got a lot of good feedback from most of the residents. But naturally, as you talk to people, negative things do come up. And the only comment that was made to me about the location up by Powers Pond was somebody in a wheelchair found it extremely difficult that day getting around, and probably aggravated by the fact that the grass was really wet.
Right.
What that person asked me to bring to council was perhaps they could consider some more sand in the area to try to make, as you're navigating, away from the trail that goes from the street over to the pond. If you could put some more sand in, maybe, basically, so that a wheelchair could get around. So I'd like it if Community Services could look at that.
Look into that, yeah.
That resident was truly concerned and had a difficult time getting around that day. The final thing I have is the Mount Pearl Soccer Association hosted the soccer nationals for under 15 and under 16 this past week. They were for the boys, and this is known as the select team. So what you had was the best male players from each province competing for the title. Councillor Walsh, I think you were you brought greetings on behalf of the city, right?
It was a regional format.
Yeah. We had teams from BC, Alberta, Western, which was combined between Saskatchewan and Manitoba, Team Atlantic, of course, of which there were some players from not only Newfoundland and Labrador on it, but also some players from Mount Pearl, as well as Quebec and Ontario. So I want to congratulate the Soccer Association, specifically the volunteers, and also congratulate the city for the support that they gave them during the tournament. And that's it, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aker. Sure.
Yeah, just to Councillor Aker's point on the Powers Pond, I know at one point in time the city used to have, I believe, an inclusion committee, it was called. Sean McKenna, our staff person, used to be on it, I know that, and there were some people from, there were some people, and it would look at issues just like that. I mean, when we build new facilities, because of the building codes and so on,
right,
we have to allow for people with disabilities and wheelchairs and all that kind of thing. But I don't know that we necessarily look at it through that lens when we look at things like parks and access to parks and even road. You know, I think we do it here and there, but I'm not so sure, unless staff can correct me, if we look at it through that lens. And that's a classic example there, perhaps, of where that inclusion committee was formed. And not just for people with disabilities, seniors, because
Right.
a lot of senior citizens have the same issues in terms of mobility and everything else. So it was all around this whole concept of when we design parks and open spaces, as well as facilities and everything, that we bear in mind people with disabilities and seniors and stuff like that in terms of how things are designed, having areas where which they could easily access,
Right.
even for seniors having sufficient number of benches and stuff where they could sit down, take a break and whatever. So maybe that's something on a go-forward basis we could look at. We've talked about bringing things through the green lens.
Right.
So why can we not also bring it through that lens as we're developing things in the future? So
Indeed.
I'll
Is that
pass it on to planning and development, maybe would be the appropriate committee to look at that.
Or community
If they're not
services?
already sort of doing that. They probably are to some degree anyway, maybe not
Okay.
specifically.
Did you want to comment, Mr. Yevchek?
Yes, Your Worship, yeah, we'll take a look at it. We are involved with something similar in terms of Universal Design Network,
Right.
about accessibility and those considerations. But certainly, and I apologize, I wasn't aware if the Inclusion Committee is still active. And if they are, we can certainly begin to contact them. If not, maybe we can have a discussion at Planning and Land Use about resurrecting.
Yeah, resurrecting again.
'Cause I think
Sure.
it's a really good idea.
I think it's a good idea as well. All right, thank you. Well, there's nothing else before we adjourn. I too want to extend my congratulations to Councillor Lane, and as to Councillor Walsh and Ager's points, two fine candidates, and I guess it's safe to say in this case the best man won. So we'll go from there. But again, congratulations to Councillor Tessier for throwing her hat in the ring, and well, I said the best man, because there's only one man in the race. So, but again, congratulations to both of you, and good luck in the months ahead. All right, and if there's nothing else, okay, I'll have a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Aker. That's it. Thank you, folks.